Oba Waja, ní orúkọ ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀ Yorùbá, ní orúkọ ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀ wa, ní orúkọ àwọn bàbá yín wa, ní orúkọ àwọn yèyé wa, àwọn olóyè wa. In the name of our dearly departed Oba Waja, and we say Oba Waja because in the Yoruba culture, it is said that the Oba never dies. And so he's stuck to live forever. The Oba never dies. And so they say Oba Waja. That's a phrase we can all learn. Oba Waja. Oba is the king, and Waja is the roof of a house. And so in your traditional Yoruba culture, we say Oba Waja. The king is going through the roof. And so Oba Funtala was born December, no, that's my birthday. October 5th, that's my birthday. October 5th, 1928 at Black Bottom, Detroit, Michigan. Oba Funtala became an avid learner, self-taught, and he discovered his African culture at the church, at the Fordham or the Hartford Avenue Baptist Church, because he asked the preacher, where was the African God? And because he realized that the God that they were venerating in the church was of European descent. So he said, well, isn't there a black one somewhere? And he said, oh, no such a thing. And so Oba Funtala and his brother Umbaji band together and decided they were going to boycott the church at 14. And so they did. And so they decided they wouldn't go back until they found the black guy. And so as the story goes, Oba Funtala went on with this deep power or deep passion for Africa as a young man. Of course, this is in the 30s during the Depression. And of course, Oba Funtala came across a magazine, a National Geographic magazine, which pictured a Yoruba guy and a Zulu guy. And he liked the Zulu guy more because the Zulu guy looked more sharper. He had more stuff going on. The Yoruba guy just had a floppy hat on and he was carving. He liked it. So he named himself Uvomanzu Adela, which meant one surrounded by lions. It's a Zulu name. So that was the Oba's first African name. Then he went on to discover that he had a deep passion for Africa once he joined the Catherine Dunham dance company. And with Catherine Dunham, he traveled around the world, Egypt, Europe, all over the Rivieras, and made it to Haiti. And once he made it to Haiti, it was the first time he had got to see true African culture and African religion in its entirety, because they did a dance to Dambala Wedo, the deity of the serpent deity, which represents the protective shield that protects the earth. It's like the ancestors. And Dambala Wedo impressed him so much that he came back to New York, fired up, and created the Order of Dambala Wedo. The Order of Dambala Wedo was the first African centered, African cultural, Afrocentric, cultural, socio-religious institution in North America. Now they're everywhere. However, the first shrine to the gods of Africa was, I think, a Haitian flag, a coconut, and a book. They were truly African Americans with no clue as to what their traditional culture was, but they were willing to put themselves forward and put the best effort out and put the best foot forward, and they continued to learn and create. Of course, Oba Adefunmi, as the story goes, Oba Adefunmi said he had it was a Dini Zulu told him, he said, look, you got to do your African rituals, got to have a little more steam to them. They ain't got enough steam. Because what they was in the Ghanaian culture, the Twi, practicing the Twi culture, and they had a stool. You know, the Ghanaians venerate a stool, and they sacrifice an animal to the stool that represents their ancestors. And so Dini Zulu told him, well, do the stool, sacrifice the animal, but hold the stool up and go, the stool, the stool, the stool. Hold it up for the people. So you got to add more theatrics. African culture is theatrical. And of course, Oba Adefunmi went on in the dark, fumbling and mumbling and bumbling, of course, until he met a gentleman by the name of Chris Oliana, which everyone should know his name if you are African American practicing traditional African culture, because he was the one that when he came to the ceremony, he said, King or Surge. He said, I don't know what y'all doing. That mumbo jumbo. He said, if you want to see a real thing, come over to the temple and I'll show you something real African when you get over there. Now, Chris was from Curacao, of Curacao and Cuban descent, which meant that, of course, our culture is throughout the Caribbean. You just don't see it in America. And so Chris, Oba Adefunmi said the first time he heard somebody and he opened up to the ancestors and said, so inherently that riddle, that Atakio poetry, what is it? Oriki. That incantation,
Incantation.
That incantation is, of course, it's ancient. It goes way back to Cuba. It goes all the way back to Matanza, Cuba, to the house of Oshabi. And they got it from someplace too. And that house was created from a young girl who came from Africa, who was enslaved, went to Cuba, and she created that house. Subsequently, Oba Adefunmi went to Cuba in 1959 and was initiated out there. So they created the first temples to traditional African spirituality in North America. You can Google it. It's all in magazines. It was widely covered by PBS. Malcolm X was a part of the movement. I believe at the time, Louis Farrakhan was just joining, and he's a fiddler player, my dad said. And they used to come by the temple.
Violin.
A violin player, I'm sorry. He was a fiddler. I said fiddler.
Yeah, fiddler.
He was a violin player, but they used to come by the temple, and many people were interested in this new African thing. Because in Harlem, in the 60s, you got to realize it was a push. You know, what did he say? James Brown made that Black and I'm Proud thing, and then there was riots everywhere. Kennedy got shot, Malcolm got shot, and everybody was getting, Martin Luther King was killed. And so it was this push in Harlem where things was about to bust loose. And so Oba Adefunmi stepped back and realized that he needed to go out and orate to the masses, because in Harlem a soapbox was a normal thing. You get on the soapbox, you get a crowd, people listen. You had the people talking about we were Moors, and some people saying we're black people from another planet, and some people saying we're Christians, and some people saying we're Muslims. Some people saying all sorts of wild, outlandish things about our culture, like our origin, like it wasn't written in books like yesterday. And so Oba Adefunmi took the soapbox and explained our traditional African culture, where we came from, why we dress like this. And typical to most Americans, they were ridiculed. They call them, you know, when Farrakhan and them would see them coming, they'd say, oh, they go them Africans in them rags. Here they come. They're going to take the mic next. Let's see what they got to say, you know. And Oba Adefunmi would take the stage and blow the crowd away, because nobody ever heard anyone articulate the fact that you didn't need civil rights. You didn't need to be equal to anyone. You need to know your culture, who you were before all of this started. And once you know that, then you know your power. And I was blown away, because when I went to Africa, I got to see what black people were before they came to America and all of this foolishness. I mean, those are industrious people. They got businesses everywhere. You talk about, can we just get together and have a black business coalition? Get out of here, man. What? In Africa, the kids make blocks. They make furniture and couches for real. Like, we go to the store and buy couches. Tell them cheap. In Africa, they make the couch. They make everything, bricks and blocks. They had a sign that said block industry. One man with a little machine. And he had blocks everywhere. All he did was make blocks all day. You see, so Oba Adefunmi was trying to articulate who we were before all of this started. And people latched on. His first reading he ever did was for Esther Rose from Good Times. And she became a part of the culture movement as well. And so did the Last Poets. Abiodun Oyewole from the Last Poets. Many people was influenced by the Yoruba culture, and subsequently, Oyotunji was built. Oyotunji was built on this tract of land so that you people can celebrate, come and articulate and express the culture of our ancestors. Nowhere else in America is it going to happen to this magnitude. And now, everywhere you go across the country, you're going to find temples and shrines, right? Festivals. And it is the Yoruba culture that has really galvanized America. And as I said yesterday, it's gotten so fancy that Delta got a non-stop flight you can take from Atlanta straight to Nigeria.